film.
The Life on Earth series, remember it's a 13-part series, landmark series that the BBC
which Attenborough commissioned in a sense.
enabled David Attenborough to do. Yes, he stepped down from being head of BBC Two because he wanted to make the series and he didn't want to be commissioning someone else to do it. He wanted to do it, understandably.
Yeah.
So it was, it came a few days after the death of Digit. So we were grieving at the loss of a friend and dealing with the repercussions of that. Diane was ill and I was the camp gopher, so I was told to go for the BBC and went to find them in Kigali and bring them up to camp. So the first day when we went out, it was quite late in the day and we decided not to film. We got close to the guerrillas. We found fear trail. They had moved back into the saddle near to where Digit had been killed. Maybe they were looking for Digit. But Digit's body was no longer there because scientists all take the body back to learn what they can from it. And we had a French doctor from Ruangeri, the nearby town, come up and do a dissection and learn what we could from Digit's body. And then he was buried outside Diane's cabin, the first such gorilla to be buried there. Prior to that, when we found skeletal material in the forest, it was labelled and sent off to the Smithsonian Institution in the States. But Digit's body had been badly mutilated. The head was cut off and the hands were cut off, so it was an incomplete specimen, if you want to think of it in that sense. But of course, the emotional reasons for Diane wanting Digit to be buried there were what predominated. And I shot the film of Diane seeing Digit's body brought back to camp. And then he was buried, and before he was buried, we tried to do a reconstruction of the death scene, because during the fight, Digit had killed one of the poacher's dogs. We had lots of confiscated spears, so we tried to do a dramatic reconstruction, which has never been used, but the footage exists in National Geographic archives. And it was a few days later that the BBC came, and Diane had met David Attenborough before in London once, and was greatly looking forward to introducing them to the guerrillas, but she was coughing blood and not very well. So I took them out to Group 4 initially. Group 4 had been back in the saddle near to where Digit had been killed, and we think had run into poachers again because we came across fear dung. And when guerrillas are frightened, they flee, often in single file, and there's dollops of diarrhea because they are that afraid.
Yes.
And so when we got close to them, it was quite late in the day, and we said, well, let's not film, I'll just introduce you to them. And Martin Saunders, the cameraman, had said, well, I've got a 600mm lens, I'm confident I'll get some good shots. And I said, well, you're going to be filming eyeballs, you need a wide-angle lens. But again, no one had really conceived of the idea that you might be sitting in a family of gorillas. So we approached the group, and they're feeding in the late afternoon, and I'd explained that when we get close, we kneel down so that we're not towering over them. And that would reassure them, and then I would vocalise to tell them that we were coming, so I'd be saying as we approach, and that if you're in the way, just step out of the way if a gorilla comes along. And we're looking at a gorilla feeding up a tree, and there, and a black-backed tiger, I should think, a black-backed called tiger, came up behind and just kind of elbowed his way past the film crew. Excuse me. And oh wow, it's unlike any wildlife filming situation that you can think of.
Yeah.
It's not sitting in a hide for weeks on end hoping to get a glimpse of something. It's being invited on a family picnic, and all the members of the family are eating and playing and relaxing and snoozing in the sun with their hands behind their head, and you just pick your shots all around. So the next day was when we went out and started filming properly, and that was when David, I don't know to what extent he'd scripted it the night before, but he said those very profound words about there is more meaning and mutual understanding in exchanging a glance with a gorilla than in any other animal I know. And he goes on and on and on, and ends up with the obvious observation to anyone who's with gorillas, seeing how gentle they are, that we portray them as being this monster, and that's the one thing that we are, at least can be. We can behave monstrously, and that they aren't, unless someone's threatening their life. So yes, it was I think a landmark event, and the fact that the series was so widely viewed and that sequence was seen almost as a pinnacle of the whole series in the primates program, Life in the Trees, and that sort of contact with the gorillas, the producers and John Sparks, who was trying to direct the scene, and they shot a bit of the material when Pablo sat on him and rolled around on him, more as a laugh, because they couldn't see how they would use it in a serious documentary he was supposed to be talking about the opposing thumb and ability to manipulate, and the manipulation was actually Pablo trying to undo his shoelaces. I disappointed he didn't say, see how suitably adapted the primate hand is for fiddly tasks like, but he didn't. He lay on his back and laughed.
Oh boy! So that must have been extraordinary. And at the end of the day, shooting, were you all together? Were the crew staying?
Yes, they stayed up at Kawasaki for a few days, and but this was in the days of film, so there was no reviewing of rushes there and then. Now with digital, we can sit and see what we've got and adapt the next day to try and get things that you didn't get the first day. Then it was all in a can and had to be sent off to be developed, and you hoped that the exposure, the focus, the humidity and everything hadn't in some way ruined the footage. And then there was the political ramifications in that the local authorities had got the idea, erroneously, that the BBC were filming Digit's body and putting out what would be negative material about Rwanda being unable to protect its gorillas. So there was a roadblock set up to stop the BBC, and they were going to confiscate the footage. And in the back, Martin Saunders swapped their labels of rolls of film, ready so that if they confiscated it, he would give them unexposed film, and kept the footage that they'd got in cans that seemed like they hadn't been exposed. But in the end, they sorted out that misunderstanding and went on their way. They went on to film at Gombe.
Where Jane Goodall
is. So, and I said to David Attenborough, having grown up reading his ZooQuest books and seeing him on television since I was a child, I said, on the way back from the gorillas on that first day, walking through a glade in the sunshine at 10,000 feet in Rwanda, there can't be many natural history greats that you haven't seen yet, although he's gone on to make more and more programs where he's seen more and more. But he said, no, I've been very fortunate. Last week, I was swimming with manta rays off the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Next week, I'll be in Gombe with Jane Goodall. That man has had such an amazing life.